Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram and Etsy as well. Welcome to the Sunday morning briefing. How is everyone? I hope you're doing really well. It is Mothering Sunday here in the UK, so happy Mother's Sunday to all of you who are able to celebrate, and big hugs to those of you who find today a little bit difficult for whatever reason. I have got lots and lots to share with you today, and I was actually going through all the things that I've got to share with you and thinking I'm keeping some of those for next week as well. So I've got lots happened in the last 2 weeks. I've been royally left unattended. I have got my stitching. I've got lots and lots of Stitch in London news. I have got 2 stitch alongs that I'm going to be starting, one next week and one in the coming weeks. Lots of stitchy kindness, a little bit of haul, just so many good things. I've got lots of giveaways as well. My fellow Stitch in London designers have been so generous and have given me some charts to give away to you. So before we get started on that, I'm just going to do the results of the giveaway from last video, which was from Ruthie Crowsfeet Stitching. And Ruthie's got a few more giveaways for me today. So this one was her Happy Easter Bunny cushion, and this has been won by Hexagon Stitches. So if you could get in touch with me either through Instagram or through the email, which is in the drop down box, then I will get Ruthie to send that over to you. And the other one is this one. Now my front cover's got a bit crushed. This is Millicent Merrin. So this is the one where you've got the little chart for either the pillow or for the whole sampler. And this is the one that's got the interesting temples on the bottom. And this one was won by Vanessa L 3344. I'll put your comments up there. So again, if you can get in touch with me, I'll get Ruthie to send that over to you. Now, lunchtime today, it was touch and go as to whether I was going to be able to film today. Funny story. So we had that email, the email that parents of small children, smallish children, mine's not that small anymore, don't really like getting from school. Yes, there's knits in the classroom. Well, not in the classroom, in the class of children. Please check your children. So I did Ness's hair last night with the stuff that you leave overnight, but I only had enough for one dose of that, and I wanted to do mine, and Chris did his as well. So I went down to the local Boots today and I bought some of the headrin. I wanted to do the 5-minute one, blitz those little critters that might be there if they're there. Anyway, great. So I did my hair, and it puts this kind of like oily film on your hair, which obviously dehydrates the knits if they're there, and followed the instructions of how to wash it off. This stuff would not come off my hair. It just wouldn't. Came off Chris's quite easily, sort of with 2 washes, but he's got hair that's about this long. It's a bit of a different story. I'd got like a quarter of a bottle of this stuff on my head, and yeah, it just wouldn't come off. And I washed my hair 3 times through the first time and dried it, and I looked like I just put my head in a chip vat, in a pan of chip fat. I went back and I did it again, and then I did another shampoo, and I think I used every shampoo that we had. So I came out and dried it again. It still hadn't gone. It was awful. And I was beginning to think, oh my God, how am I ever going to get this stuff out of my hair? I gave it one more go with all the products in the bathroom, and I could still feel it was just greasy. Do you know how I managed to get it off in the end? Fairy Power. Yeah, Fairy Liquid, Max Power Gel. Managed to get it out of my hair. Thank goodness for that. Otherwise, today would have been a very different picture. It would have looked awful. I've never had such trouble getting that stuff out. I remember we were out in, where were we? We were in Mongolia actually. And I was out on expedition with a group, and some of our students had managed to pick up knits from an orphanage that we'd been to. So we went to go and get some treatment from a local chemist, and our guide came out with a bottle, and it was about that big. And I said to him, oh God, how many will that do? And he said about 40. And I was like, oh my good grief, what is in that? Some hellish chemical or other. But that was what we had to use, so it got rid of them, thankfully. Anyway, you probably didn't want to hear about knits today. Let's have a little look and see where we are. So This is, I'm going to start off with my stitching. This is my March, my March spread. We've had a few days of non-stitching. All the green ones are finishes, which is nice. And only one new start again, which is nice. Was it one? Two new starts. Two new starts. Now, one finish that I have had, I haven't got to show you because it is actually an FFO as well. And it was a present for my mum. She had specifically asked for a needle book for her birthday, which was last weekend. And so that is what I did. Now, this has actually managed to go into my book, my other book, as the first one with an FFO picture. So I bought some sticky back A4 photo paper, and so I'm just taking a photo and cutting it to fit and then putting it into my book as a picture. So I'm going to put a picture of this up on the screen so you can see what it was and how it was finished off. I was really pleased with how it finished off actually. I was worried at one point, there was some swearing at one point, but it all came together really well. And what it was this one here, the needle book kit that I bought while I was at the attic. So this is what I made for my mum, and these were the colours. So I've still got, I'm not sure if it's quite enough to stitch it again, but it mightn't be far off because it was stitched on 30 count, which is what came with the kit. And if I was going to do another one, I'd probably do it on 36 count. So maybe there might be enough. So yeah, I think she was pleased with that. So happy birthday for last week, Mum, and happy Mother's Day for today. So that was my first finish and FFO this week. My second one was another one that's been hanging around possibly longer than it should have been. And it's this one, Merry Christmas, from All Through the Night, another itty bitty pattern. Now I do like it in the red, but I chose to stitch mine in green. And this is a silk from Paintbox Threads here in the UK. And it's a variegated green and I love it. I think it's really, really nice and it shines beautifully. So I can't wait to finish that one into an ornament. I'm trying to do an ornament a month. Now I know I didn't start this in this month, but it's a finished ornament. So I think I might count it. Love that one. Now I have also been stitching on my blue flower. I really love this chart and I really got back into it in quite a big way in the last couple of weeks. So this is where I got to. I had pretty much that row there and everything above it and nothing below. So I have done some of the lettering below and actually brought myself all the way down to the bottom, which is the lady. No, she doesn't have feet, so the bottom of the skirt is the bottom. Because I just wanted to check, oops, thread in my eye. I just wanted to check that it did actually fit on this fabric. Now this fabric is showing a little bit grey. It is actually a bit more purple than you can see there. That's probably not a bad shout. And as I said, I came all the way down to the bottom there just by zigzagging and finding the extremities of the chart. I'm pretty sure this is a piece of 38 count that I dyed myself. So loving that. The colours for this one are just beautiful. There we go. Nope, that is not the colours for that. Let's try that. That is not the colours for that either. I haven't brought the colours for that one, but they are lovely. No, that's not the colours. Those ones that I just showed you, let's try again. These ones, are the ones for another sampler that I started actually in 2022 and have just suddenly had the urge to stitch on again, and I will probably end up getting it finished reasonably soon. And this was Strawberry Manor by Teresa Koga, which was the first stitch along that she did is in her Patreon. So you can see what I didn't have when I started on this was sort of most of this side of it here. And I filled in some bits on the other side too. I've got the whole border, which I had before, and I'm just starting to go around and do the little strawberries around the outside. And I've changed it a little bit. The lady's got grey hair, the man's going to have a grey beard. So it's essentially me and Chris. Got number 1 because our house is number 1. And actually, if I'd realised what it was going to look like before I started it, I'd have done this house white because our house is white. Little Welsh cottage. So I'm loving this, really loving it. It's on 32 count that I hand dyed myself. And I'm really pleased with the way that one's coming along. I've had a bit of an urge to get that one back out for quite some time now. So pleased to have it back out. Right. I'm trying to work out what my threads are for if I haven't brought those ones through. Right, I know now. The other thing I've stitched quite a lot on is an upcoming release called HS Miniature Spring Sampler. And I showed you this a couple of weeks ago. This is the original. It's just beautiful little spring colours, lovely pinks and blues and birds. And this is a piece of 36 count Pemberley by Swan Bay Fabrics. And that is what the reproduction looks like. So it's a little bit smaller. And it's still got all those beautiful pinks and purples. So I've just got this centre flower to do. And actually the original's got an almost metallic in it. So I need to pick the appropriate floss for that. That's the only one that I'm kind of sticking on. It's up here and it's around this flower here. So I want to pick something that really sort of suits it well. And so it's almost ready. It's almost ready. And these are the colours for this one. So you can see, oops, looks a bit of a rat's nest there. We've got, let's try and do a twist. So I've managed to bury the pink in there somewhere. The pink is Pomegranate by Gentle Arts. Come on. And it's this beautiful sort of dark pink. Now I think you could stitch it with whatever pink you liked. If you wanted a slightly more fuchsia pink or a slightly softer pink or a mixture of pinks, I think you could change that up as you fancied. Such a lovely little thing. Love, love, love. Right, that's pretty much all the stitching I want to share with you for the moment. I have done a little bit more stitching, but I'll tell you about that in the Stitch in London Sampler Edition recap. So let's just fettle ourselves because this is going to be a big one. It was a fabulous, fabulous weekend. So it was put on by Marie from Stitches and Diamonds and Linda Haddon together, plus a bunch of designers. And it took place in Watford in London, where the normal Stitch in London takes place. But there were 42, I think, attendees. So it's kind of smaller so that everybody can get a real good chance to talk, to look at all the samplers, to be involved in the talks that are going on, to follow the classes that are happening. So it's a much sort of smaller, more bespoke event. And it's brilliant. It really is a great thing. Marie and I did the first one last year. and we decided that we wanted to have as many antique samplers on display as possible. So we had over 70 last year. Now there were lots and lots there this year as well. Not quite as many as 70, but just perfectly curated groups of samplers to really sort of exemplify what it was we were talking about. So I'm going to run you through in order, and I'm going to show you the charts that the designers gave out. I'm going to show you, well, give you a little bit of what they talked about as well. So the first designer off the rank, the first cab off the rank, was Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery, and he gave us a fabulous talk, as you would imagine from Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery, endlessly enthusiastic about Scottish samplers. Now Jacob had also provided the chart for the pre-stitching that went out to the attendees a few months ago so that they could stitch a little needle book. And it was, his design sort of took elements from Scottish samplers. But the samplers that he was mostly talking about, amongst others, was this one, Susan Jolly. So this was the one that he gave away as the chart that went with his talk. And he actually did two colourways, because Jacob doesn't do anything by halves. So he did the bright colourway, which is how Susan stitched hers, and then he did a slightly more muted version. Now it was brilliant because Letitia from Corrie's Little Shop, who I've mentioned to you before, she actually had prepared thread packs for all of these charts, so the attendees could pick what it was they wanted to stitch. They got the free charts for everything, and it was just up to them to choose what they wanted to get the thread packs for. So that is the original sampler there. So fabulous. Then we had Ruthie from Crowsfeet Stitching give us a talk about Irish samplers. Now there's not many people talking about Irish samplers, possibly for a couple of reasons. One, they are not very well known about particularly. There's not a huge sampler tradition in Ireland, although there is some very definite groups of samplers in Ireland. They don't always show themselves to be Irish samplers. They can sometimes look a bit like Scottish samplers, and so unless there is a particular girl's name that is obviously Irish or a place name, it can be quite difficult to identify some of them as Irish. And so Ruthie was explaining about all of these different things. So the chart that went with Ruthie's talk was this one, was Sarah Charles. Now Sarah's original sampler is quite a religious one, and it's got two verses of religious text on there, as you might expect. So the chart that Ruthie produced was the full version, but she also made a smaller version of the chart with just the letters and the girl's name and date there. And as always with Ruthie, lots and lots of information and really good quality research. Now Ruthie at the event also released two other Irish samplers. So this was the one that went to all the attendees, and then she also released two samplers by Sarah Rosanna Rutherford. Two marking samplers there. And this is, as you can see, perhaps on the face of it, looking at that, you might think it was Scottish with the red and the green, but actually she was from Ireland, although she did have Scottish heritage. And the other one was this one from a model school. And as you can see, it just has the letters, the numbers, and it just says model school 1859 on it. So Ruthie's taken that motif there and made it into a pin cushion. So they were two other releases at the event. Now, Ruthie has given me permission to give away some of her charts. So I have one copy of each of these three Irish samplers to give away. So I'm going to try and think about what to put. And I'm also going to have to write down on the back of the chart what I choose as well. So for this one, the Sarah Charles one, I'm going to go for rose, because this is a row of rosebuds, I believe. Did I read that? Yes, rosebuds. Just checking my memory's serving me right, because it isn't at the moment very often. So rose for that one. If you'd like to enter, then just leave a comment below with the word rose. There's going to be lots of words this episode, so you might want to get a pen and pencil ready to jot them all down. Obviously, there will be smiles for getting them all into a sentence somehow, but if you've really only got time to comment the words, then please just do that one. Right, this one is the marking samplers. So I'm going to go for the word marking, M-A-R-K-I-N-G, marking. I will do a recap of all of them once I've told you all the giveaways. And then this one is the Irish Model School pin cushion. So I think we might have to go for pin for that one. Pin, P-I-N. So I'm putting them all to one side. I'll give you a recap once I've done them all. And then it was my turn. Now I spoke about Welsh samplers, and I'd taken quite a few Welsh samplers with me. And so my talk was pretty similar to the one that I gave at the attic in January. There was a few people who had been there, maybe 2 or 3 who'd been at the original talk. So I hope for them it bared repeating and that it was interesting enough to hear twice. So I just went through lots of things about Welsh samplers, things about the names of Welsh samplers, the names of the girls. We talked about a few specific groups and a few specific schools. We talked about things that make a Welsh sampler, little clues in the motifs, in the materials, things that we might use to be able to identify them as being Welsh. My chart is this one. And it is Rosanna Evans. Now, I have got Rosanna Evans here. And she is a beautiful Welsh sampler. I love the colour of this linen and the way that it's kind of almost vignetted around the edge and gone a bit dark. So Rosanna stitched this when she was 20 years old. And actually some of the Welsh samplers do come from girls who are 18, 19, 20, 21 even. A little bit older than some of the other samplers. They're still stitched from 7, 8, 9, 10 as well, all the way through. But Welsh samplers, we do find sometimes they are from slightly older girls as well. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Rosanna because, don't fall, because she is now available in my Etsy store, and you'll find that most of the charts that I've shown will be available to purchase straight away. When we work with Sampler Edition, Stitch in London, there's no period of waiting. We're allowed to release our charts straight after if we want to. So most people do because there's a bit of a buzz about them. So, as I said, this is Rosanna. So I can't really tell you about where she came from because there are several possibilities with the name Rosanna Evans. And actually that sampler is not one that I've seen that sort of similar arrangement for. And so I can't necessarily pinpoint her to a slightly smaller area. What we have to do is wait for another one to come up that's got some similar motifs that we can put the two together. So the passage on the sampler, in fact, let me get the sampler back out here, is from Philippians book 1 verse 21, which is for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. And in the chart I give you the Welsh, and this is a sort of a slightly different wording but of the same Welsh. It's a really interesting sampler because it's got some quite, some quite unusual colours in it. The colours that are particularly strong are sort of those really, a dark blue, a pink and a peach colour. And there's also a lovely bright green in there as well. Now I have started to stitch the model. This is a piece of 36 count Picture This Plus relic, and I love the way that this sampler is actually working out. I'm getting the sort of same ghosting as on the original sampler. Now this light is sort of burning everything out as well, but it's starting to come along really well. And those pops of pink and the peach really do go well with the blue. When I was choosing some fabric for this, I was almost stuck in two minds actually, because Marie in her Swan Bay Fabrics has got almost like a really nice sagey green, like a grey green. And I half wondered about putting it on a completely different colour, because I think some of those colours would really pop on a different colour as well. So perhaps if you choose to stitch it, you might look for a different colour fabric, something totally out of the ordinary. So that's Rosanna Evans that went with my talk at Stitch in London. Right, we then had the fabulous Chloe. Chloe is Girl with the Gavel Stitches, and Chloe was doing her first ever presentation to a group of stitchers, I believe. I'm sure she presents every weekend on the rostrum to a group of buyers, but she was giving us a talk about how to buy samplers at auction, starting a lot of people on a very slippery slope, I think, there. And she did a fabulous job about how to buy samplers at auction, gave so many really great tips. Yeah, the popular sites to use, about contacting the auction house, about postage, packing, all that sort of thing, fees that you might have to pay or that you would have to pay on top of the hammer price. So it was great. But then she did an auction. Yeah, she did an auction. So she had been wanting to raise money for her friend who has been diagnosed with cancer. And so she wanted to open a Just Giving page for cancer research, and she wanted to do an auction. And so she had probably 6 or 7 samplers that she wanted to auction. Jacob gave a sampler as well, and as did I. So all of the samplers were auctioned, apart from mine, because mine was kept for a raffle. And they made some good money. They made fair money. There were some beautiful ones there. So that was a great evening, really great evening. And then the following day, Marie had actually had some donations, some other donations of charts and stitching accoutrements and a pair of Kohana scissors and all sorts of things like that. And so there was a raffle with my sampler, and actually one of the ladies who purchased one of the samplers the night before put it back into the raffle. And so everyone had a chance of winning those things. Now, I'd put my sampler in, and I don't know if I've still got a picture of it, and I put a little card down on, and I said if the winner would like some help to chart the sampler, I'd be very happy to offer an online lesson. Well, Jacob won it, didn't he? Total fluke, Jacob won it. So I said, I'm not helping you chart that, Jacob. But the lovely man that he is, he said to put the ticket back in, and then it was won by another lovely lady called Sarah. And she was so excited. She was so excited. Now, the Just Giving page is still open, and it's still open until the 31st of March. So that's tomorrow. Now, if you would like, I'm going to put the link to the Just Giving page down below. If you would like to donate to the Just Giving page, and if you want to send me a screenshot of your donation, then I will send you a code for 20% off in my Etsy shop. It's not much, but it's just a little thank you for donating. Now, Chloe was hoping to raise somewhere in the region of between £500 to £700 over the weekend. And I think the last I heard, the total was 2,300. So yeah, everyone was so incredibly generous and it went down an absolute storm. So if you would like to donate, as I said, I'll put the link down below. You've only got a couple of days to do it, today and tomorrow essentially, before it closes, for those particular donations. So if you want to, send me a screenshot of your donation and I will send you a 20% off code for my shop. Now, I forgot to say, one of the samplers that was in the auction was the free chart that Chloe had done. So this is Anne Anderton, 1831. And this is the chart that went with Chloe's talk. Now, again, you might think red and green, she might be Scottish, but she's not. She is from Warwickshire. I couldn't remember if it's Warwickshire or Wiltshire. She's from Warwickshire. So beautiful little sampler there to stitch. And the freebie I've chosen comes from Chloe as well. This has been out for a long time, but I always give you a freebie every week. So this is the little red sampler. And I'll put the link to Chloe's page where you can download this from. And I'll put a picture up here of the stitch, because I have actually stitched this. But could I find it? Could I find it? I've had it out on the Christmas tree at Christmas, and I can only think that it's gone back in with the rest of the Christmas decorations. But I finished it onto a little spool with a little bell on the bottom, and it looked fabulous. Now, the other thing about Chloe, which you might have seen in the social media, she just rocks up with this amazing sampler that she's reproduced and that she's releasing this weekend. Now, if you haven't seen this one, this is A Present to Anne Hunt from Ellen Hunt Walsh, 1855. And there is the sampler. Now, actually, I'm going to switch and I'm going to put a picture of Chloe holding the sampler, because the colours are so bright and so vibrant. And I had the great pleasure of watching Chloe. She's still stitching the model for this. And it was, she's done it in silks. She's done it in Belsoir silks. And it looks absolutely fabulous. I will be starting this very, very soon. As soon as I can find like a little gap in my schedule, I really want to start this. It just reminds, it's nothing to do with Christmas, but it reminds me of a little bit of a sort of candy cane, plus also a sort of striped carnation, that sort of effect. I think that's probably what it's supposed to be, a striped carnation. It's not candy cane, but it just looks amazing. And there's so many little motifs, like this little girl here and this little tulip here would make fabulous little scissor fobs and things like that. So if you haven't already got your little mitts on this copy, then please, please do. It is, oh, it's just joyous. Hello, this is future Michelle, who's now got to the end of the video and realised that she forgot to do the giveaway for Chloe's reproduction sampler. So if you would like to win a copy of this one, then please use the word bird. Bird. Thank you. And that was the end of the first day, and we were all absolutely pooped. Now, I normally like to stay stitching in a retreat, like till they kick me out, basically. But I think everyone was in bed by about 10 o'clock. Everyone was just so in awe of everything that had happened that day. It was amazing. Right, that was my first page of notes. The next morning we had Letitia from Corey's Little Shop. She'd been an absolute dynamo all weekend, kitting things up for people, doing conversions, and actually some of my pieces people wanted silk conversions for, so when I had the originals with me, and so we were able to actually on the spot do a silk conversion, which was lovely. She gave us a talk all about copyright. Now, I think a few people got a bit of a shock to do with copyright and things that as stitchers we're not allowed to do. Now, actually as designers, I think we're all on the right side of the tracks, but as stitchers, some things that we do, like passing charts on and things like that, that we're not really supposed to be doing. So everyone was a bit, but it was brilliant. It was really, really good. And everyone had loads of really interesting questions. And it was definitely something that was good to talk about. Then Linda did a needlebook finishing class. So the people who've done the pre-stitching were able to finish their needlebook there and then, or they were able to take away the required materials and the instructions to finish their needlebook at home. And it was this beautiful little sort of soft finish, which I really liked. I must do mine. Then we had a Zoom lecture. And this was from Joanne Lucascia, who is the sort of supreme knowledge all about Norfolk samplers. And so that was really, really interesting. Her book, and I'll put a picture of it up here, is actually out of print, but if you ever find a copy, then it's really worth getting the copy, even if you have to pay a little bit for it. I think I paid what it retailed at, which was about £70 or £80. So it was an expensive book to begin with. So now it's out of print, and on the secondary market it can be quite expensive. But shop around and you might find one. It's well worth the money. And she gave us a fabulous, fabulous talk all about Norfolk samplers and about the motifs, lots of which I had already been through when I was researching Susan Steele, and actually Bethany Clemens, who is part of Norfolk Needle Art with Joanne, helped me with that. And so I knew that I had the correct information, and it was just amazing. And Ruthie again had a Norfolk that, as part of the talk, she was releasing. Now I was very, very happy to get a copy of this one, and I loved it so much that I actually got the thread pack for it. So I got the muted thread pack for it. On the back the colours are a bit brighter, but I didn't. Is there a picture of the back? Yeah, just try and show you the back there. They're a little bit brighter, but I wanted to get the muted ones because I really, really liked the front cover. And so again, with Ruthie, a whole load of information about the stitcher, the area of Norfolk, what makes it a Norfolk sampler, because it is perhaps a little bit unusual from what you might recognise as a Norfolk sampler. So that is something that is going to be started fairly pronto. Hi, me again. Yes, forgot another one. Another giveaway. This one, Sarah Juby. If you would like to enter for a copy of this one, then please use the keyword tree. So, as I said, I'd recap them all. So, tree, bird, which future Michelle also had to go back and tell you about. I've got so much paperwork here. Pin, marking, and rows. Now back to your previously scheduled viewing. And then Ruth and Linda gave another talk, which was really interesting. They talked about charting and stitching another one of Ruthie's Norfolk samplers called Maria Friston, and how a designer might see a reproduction and how a stitcher might see a reproduction, and the conversations, arguments, fights that they might have had surrounding thread choice, linen choice, all that sort of stuff. And the fact that for a long time Ruthie could not find Maria Friston anywhere, nowhere. And Linda, who was stitching the reproduction, had an absolute mare with this sampler. And then all of a sudden she just kind of calmed down, and just the stitching started to go a lot better. Maria, not Linda. The stitching started to go a bit better, and Maria just changed a little bit. So Linda said to Ruthie, see if you can find her again. This sampler's behaving differently. She's not fighting me anymore. And so I think Ruthie might have a start as to find out who Maria Friston actually is. Now, Maria Friston's been released for quite a while. She is as good as Ruthie can get as a reproduction, because the linen is really uneven. It starts at one count at the top and ends at another count at the bottom. So it means that for us modern stitchers who are stitching on linen, which is still an even weave compared to what they were using then, or even weave itself, or even Ada, she's had to make some adjustments, because there's a cartouche at the bottom. Now if she stitches it or charts it exactly as it's stitched, it would do all sorts of funny things because the linen is going like that. And so that was really, really interesting as well. And then it was time to go home, and nobody wanted to go home. Nobody wanted to go home. It was fabulous. So the only thing I can say to you is when the tickets come out next year for Sampler, Stitch in London Sampler Edition, please get on board really quickly because they go like hotcakes and it's a really fabulous weekend. Right. I'm going to come back to the Stitchy kindness that I was given at the event at the end when I do all my bits of Stitchy kindness and some haul. I told you this was going to be a long one today, didn't I? Right, I have got 2 stitch alongs that I am going to be starting in the next couple of weeks. So the first one I'm going to start off talking about is the Historic Sampler Company, because this one is actually starting on the 31st of March, on Monday. Now this is called The Secret Garden. Now I've got my box here and it came just before I went, well, just after I did my last FlossTube. So it really should have been spoken about last week, but there wasn't one. So this is the Secret Garden stitch along. And there have been some little sneaky peek shots all the way through. So go on to Historical Sampler Company's Instagram and you will see. So in here, we will have, oh, there's always one in the bottom. There is a needle in the bottom there. I shall leave it there for now because otherwise I'll never find it again. These are the threads. Can I undo them easily? Yes, I can. Look at those colours. Ooh, look at those. And then this is the linen. I have a 32 count linen. That is quite a size. Now I need to read as to which way up it goes before we get started. The box comes through obviously the post, and then the charts come through by email. Now you can always join these cells partway through and you'll be sent whatever pieces have already come up. How many kits and how much of kits is left, I'm not entirely sure, because you can sort of build different levels of kits depending on what it is you want. So let me show you what else comes in the kit. So we get a little pouch which says crafting is my therapy. Lovely heavy zip, and then you've got a flat bottom bag. In fact, I'm going to keep that open because I'm going to put all my stuff in it. We got a fabulous pair of scissors. Now I really like their scissors. They are nice and sharp for frogging purposes, which I found to be most useful. And they are actually branded for Historical Sampler Company, and they come with a little sharps point on them, or sharps point saver. So I'm going to put those in my bag. You also get one of these lovely little tape measures, which is great. It's got Historical Sampler Company on the end as well. And it's never Historical Sampler Company unless we have a needle minder. So that is the little squirrel needle minder, and they are really great. I tend to just keep mine all together actually, because I stitch in hand, I don't tend to use a needle minder, but I love them. And then there's this. I love this. I have to say, when they asked me if I wanted to be part of the sale, I got the sneak peeks of the box. This was one of the things that I was like, I need that. I need that. Isn't that fabulous? And we also get some little chocolates. Now the good thing is I don't think anybody else in the family's seen these. So I shall just put those in my stitching pouch, ready for when I start stitching. And the other thing that came in the box was this, which is a really cute little ornament, which has got some little birdhouses on it, which is a bit of a clue to what might be going on the stitch. So really sweet. Pop that over there. So I've got my bits and bobs from the bag, or the box, in my bag. I've got my fabric, I've got my bits and bobs. I'm ready to go. I am ready to go on Monday. So I'll put all the contact details down below. Go and have a look, see what is available in terms of kits if you fancy, and see how you can join via PDF. Now, the other one that is starting, now this one is not starting for a few weeks yet, and this is Caterpillar Cross Stitch Birthday Botanicals, which I think looks absolutely fabulous from the blurred out photograph and the little sneak peeks that I've had. Pre-order is open at the moment. It doesn't start stitching until the 23rd of April, so you've got quite a bit of time. And I do have a discount code for 10%, which I'll put across the bottom there, and I'll put it down below as well. So if you want to go on and order yourself a kit, then you can use that. There is also a needle minder available. Again, fabulous, fabulous quality with these. This one has got a little watering can on it with flowers in it. So you can order all sorts of different levels of kit. You can order the whole lot with the needle minder, without the needle minder, whatever it is you want to buy. So let's have a look at what's inside here. So we have some fabric. Again, I think this is 32 count. And then all of these fabulous springy colours. And I'm sure there is usually a needle somewhere. Ah, there it is, it's in the fabric. I was going to say, you normally get everything you need to stitch with, so it is a great gift. So again, I'll put the contact details down for them. This is a 4-month stitch along with 1 part per month. The Historical Sampler Company is a 5-part stitch along across 10 weeks. So both of them will be finished by the summer. Well, I say that. I say that. It's a bit bold, but that's the plan anyway. Right. Stitchy kindness and, Stitchy kindness and a little bit of purchases. So this is my first piece of Stitchy kindness. A lovely stitcher called Sylvia gave me this at the Stitch in London. It's got those chickens on it. And look inside. Ah, how fabulous is that? And it's got a little fried egg on there as well, which I love. So thank you so much for that, Sylvia. It was a real pleasure, and it is actually housing my HS miniature spring sampler at the moment until she's finished. I was also lucky enough to receive, and let's just grab these all over here, this fabulous little, it came in a little pouch. So we've got some pins, a needle minder, a little needle threader, all attached. There was some ribbon holding it together. This was a lovely stitcher called Cheryl, and that's got the Oregon state map on it as a little needle minder. So thank you so much for that. I'm so lucky that people give me things. It is an absolute pleasure to be at these events. It really is, because everyone comes over and says hello, and it's really nice to meet everyone. I got this little pouch here from a lady called Marie, and there is some Mrs. Sader silk, which I haven't actually used, but look at that colour. That is the bomb, isn't it? It's called, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Mikey, maybe. That is amazing. Then little stitchy photo frame, some thread drops. I keep meaning to take my thread drops with me to swap with people. And then a whole bag of buttons and various other bits and bobs in there. Now there's a lady that goes to, she's always on the Zooms for the Sampler Guild, and she goes to quite a few of the events, and every time she goes she produces these great scissor keeps, or what do they call them? Scissor fobs. So this one says Stitch in London Sampler Edition 2025. So I try and get a slightly different colour one every time. So when we went to Gloucester, she made me one. Well, she made everyone one, and I had a yellow one, and I got a green one from the Big Stitch. So they're quite a collector's item. So thank you for those. And these ones are from Anico. I hope I said that right. Beautiful cards. And then came with these great things, and she said she'd use my tutorial to make them, which was fabulous. So little ring bling, again, don't search that up on the internet, you won't like what you find, and another scissor fob. Beautiful, beautiful. I love these. I'm gonna have to try and find some of these little clasps. And then I was so privileged to get this from a lady called Sarah. Now, I briefly met Sarah at a previous Stitch in London, but she had to leave because she'd had some bad family news. And she said she'd watched my trip to the attic, and she wanted to stitch this for me. Now, I had wanted to stitch this for myself, but I would never have done it as well as this. So it's in memory of Jean, the always forward, never backwards chart from Mrs. Flossie. Let me just stretch that bottom bit there, otherwise you're getting a shadow. And she has stitched it as Jean absolutely would have wanted it stitched. So this is 56 count Windsor Castle by Tabby Cat, and it's a Vera Soir threads. So silk thread on 56 count, exactly as Jean would have wanted it. And I couldn't tell you how pleased I was to have received this. It really, really is something I will really treasure. And I'm actually going to put it in my attic, my little case that Jean gave us from the attic as well. So thank you so much for that. It was so thoughtful of you to do that for me. Right, I have also received in the post a lady called Sherry, who lives in the States. She had sent me this chart. Cute embroidery by Kate, and it's a little Welsh stamp with a little Welsh dragon on it. How fabulous is that? And it just appeared in my post one day. So thank you so much for that, Sherry. Lovely to receive a little chart. So I look forward to stitching that. And is this where I'm up to? Yeah. And this is a little bit of Stitchy kindness as well. This is Jacob's new chart. It's called Big Socks, Big Clocks. Now, he's done a couple of charts of these, which are the patterns for sock darnings. And I know he's got one other one. And he gave this to me at the retreat. This is his newest one. So he talks all about how they come from the patterns from here. And he was telling us about how they strengthen the seams as part of it as well. So I need to read more about it because it's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. Did you see he's released another chart as well? So he was having a conversation with a stitcher at Stitch in London about how it was the anniversary of Jane Austen. And so he went home, he charted a new sampler, and he's pretty much stitched it and re-slit by Wednesday. He's so talented, it's crazy. I'll put a picture of it up here, it's really nice. And then every so often on the Homespun Needlecraft group, they have a post where people are looking for unicorn samplers. Charts that are really hard to find or people just haven't got and they would really like to stitch them. Now I have granted a couple of wishes on there. In fact, I can't remember if I did one or two the last time they put it up, and a lovely lady also called Michelle, I think you'll find all the best stitchers are called Michelle, granted my wish. Now I've wanted these for ages, ever since I saw Michelle, Finally a Farm Girl, stitch it, and it's really hard to get hold of because it is out of print, and it is by Brenda Gervais and it's called Birds of a Feather, and it came in 3 parts, and it is this one here. So I really want to start this one because I've wanted it for so long. I really want to start it. So I've got a list of threads that I need to have a look through to see if I've got them. And then I believe the first is the border. The second part is the top of the tree, and then the third part is the house at the bottom. So I think I might try and stitch it in part order because I think that might be quite fun. So thank you so much for that, Michelle. She posted it to me. She wouldn't let me pay for any of it. And so, yeah, she said that she'd received them as a Stitchy kindness as well. So she was keen to pass them on. So thank you so much for those. I really can't wait to stitch those. Right, we are on to bought and paid fors now. Stash enhancement. What did somebody else call it the other day that I thought was really funny? Inventory. Inventory. How posh does that sound? I like that. Some more inventory. My first bit of inventory was from True Deanne Designs, who is Jeff P. Smith on eBay. I decided that I really liked this one. It was probably one of the only Stacey Nash ones that I hadn't bought from Market this year, and I decided that I really did need it. So a little pin badge with a swan on it. Love that one. This one is the exclusive for the Scarlet House with Hobby House, and it is a Welsh sampler. She's from Amloch on Anglesey. This is Eleanor Roberts. Now, a friend of mine allowed me to send this to her sort of PO box over there, and then she has it shipped back over to her. Unfortunately, Tanya has re-released this chart, so all of the paper charts have been re-sent out. So this is the one with the mistakes on, so then I'll get the corrected chart next time she has her box sent over. But it is a beautiful chart. I love that house. It's fabulous. So it gives me a bit more time to get a few things up together, ready to stitch her, so no problem. And I picked this up at Stitching London. This is from Haystack Stitching, who is Caroline Selden. And she had the original there, actually. She had the Bristol there. And this is called Anonymous, and that is her Bristol sampler. Now, I fancied doing a Bristol sampler, but this is on the smaller end of the spectrum, which I'm quite pleased about. So yeah, I quite fancy this one. If you're looking for a small Bristol, this is the one to go for. That's it from me. I'll see you next week. Stay classy, Stitchers.